of Israel who fund and give money to a president for the election. Then, in turn, the American gives them billions of rands and arm them so that they can commit genocide. What kind of free country is America? They can't even criticize Israel. If they criticize Israel, then they get locked up. So it's really it's not a free country. It's a country that cannot say they can be proud about it because the country that's manipulated by another country.
Good afternoon, Sister Sakina. It's Frederick Tracker. Sister Sakina, I think right now in our country, the big focus should be on this contamination, food poisoning. Children are dying. We are worried about the United States of America's vote. No, man. Those people, they never mentioned us in their campaigns. They never mentioned South Africa. They never mentioned Africa. They don't care. We should be worried what is killing our children in this country right now. The Minister of Home Affairs should be updating us and telling us where is the poisoning coming from.
Hi, Sakina, your producers and your listeners. Sakina, we're the only country in this continent. We're the only country, we may be even the first country in the world that have allowed wanteds from around the continent, wanteds and criminals around the world to come in and do as they please in this country. We have wanteds from Africa that actually have citizenship and have permits to be in this country. Other countries are so free and happy that their criminals are no longer in their surroundings. But in South Africa, that is why Donald Trump is trying to make sure that he's protecting his people. And but us, wow, it's very bad. Donald Trump is trying to fix it, but you don't have anyone that's trying to fix that here in this country. It's fixing Cape Town. Thank you.
Afternoon, Saki. Zamazamas will never stop. There is a big fish that is paying them. You can't risk your life going deep down thousands and thousands of kilometers for nothing. All parties now are warming for 2029. They will sign spineless bills to gain votes and not focus on rural areas, uncontrolled borders, illegal firearms, stock theft. The list is endless. Thank you, Saki.
Well, thanks so much for those voice notes. And if we have more, we'll play them. But a few more stories that we need to update you on.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.5 FM in Oat Bay. Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Now, police say that 2 suspects are expected to appear in the George Magistrates Court today. This in connection with the murder of alleged underworld kingpin Mark Liffman. The 57-year-old was gunned down at the Garden Route Mall in George on Sunday. He was scheduled to appear in the High Court in Cape Town yesterday on a number of charges, including a murder of a steroid smuggler, Brian Weinstein. But for more on this story, we joined on the line by our reporter in the Western Cape, and that's Sagri Chetty. Sagri, good afternoon. So first off, just in terms of the appearance of the 2 suspects, has that happened in court as expected?
Good afternoon to you, Sakina, and to the listeners. Yes, indeed, the 2 suspects appeared very briefly in the George Magistrates Court, where their case was actually postponed for further investigation and for a bail application, which will take place on the 13th of November.
Sagri, what more do we know about these 2 suspects?
Well, what we do know is following a press conference with General Tembisile Patekile, who is the Western Cape Police Commissioner, he actually gave us a little bit more information about the 2 suspects. And quite interesting to note is that one suspect is a former policeman who worked in the Special Task Force until 1998 and who went into the private security industry. What's more interesting is that General Patekile revealed that this suspect actually worked for PPA, which is Mark Liffman's security company.
The other suspect, anything much about him, Sagri?
not much information was given on the other suspect, but he appears to be a 30-year-old male. Both of them were brought into the court under heavy armed police guard, and they had hoodies on trying to cover their faces and their head, but they were asked to remove it. Also, through their lawyer, they asked the court to be put in solitary confinement until their next appearance, but that was actually refused.
So, Mark Liffman is said to be an alleged underworld boss. So what do we know about him and, his life coming to an end in George? Was there anything more said about why he was there, what was happening at the moment? So any further details about the life and times of Mark Liffman at this stage, Sagri?
Well, yes, I do have some information on that. Actually, it's been revealed that Mark Liffman was he came to George regularly, and he stayed at Fan Court, where he liked to play golf. The golf estate in George, very popular. And he came here regularly, and he stayed at a friend's place on the golf estate. I've also been told that Liffman actually really went around in Cape Town, without bodyguards. But it was very strange that on Sunday, when he was shot and killed at the Garden Group Mall, I've been told that he was actually alone, without any security.
Well, we'll have to leave it there for today, Sagri. Thank you so much. That's our reporter in Georgia, Sagri Chetty, with the latest there. Suspects appearing in court, but of course they will appear again for bail application. Interestingly, one of them a former member of the South African Police Service.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Bulugwane. Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
And today is a D-Day for America as they decide on their next president. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have been making their final appeals to undecided Americans. Trump held his final campaign rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, while Kamala Harris held her final rally in Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. So far, it's reported that the latest polls reveal a competitive final battle for the two candidates. But of course, things can change at any moment. But for the latest, we joined on the line by our correspondent in the U.S., Sherwin Bryce Pease, who, of course, is monitoring the story for us. Sherwin, good morning to you, I think, and good afternoon here from our side. Did you get enough sleep? Because you're going to be very busy over the next 24 hours.
About 4.5 hours. I spoke to Tulasizwe Sibilani on his morning show on SAFM before I went to bed, and it was so funny, Sakina. He was talking about how Sherwin's not going to get any rest in the day ahead, but let's keep him up till past 11 in the United States so he can talk to us, right? Happy to be with you, Sakina, and good afternoon to the viewers, to the listeners.
So, Sherwin, this one, of course, has gone down to the wire. But, of course, right now, one of the latest polls saying, because I was watching something earlier and they were talking about exit polls, especially in the context of early votes being cast. So what is the picture at the moment?
Well, this race has been framed, right, to use election jargon, as a dead heat, a race to the finish. It's going to be a photo finish, and this is why, as you mentioned, the two campaigns and the principals have been spending the last hours of campaigning in those key critical swing states that will determine who wins the Electoral College and the White House. You saw Kamala Harris joined by the likes of Oprah Winfrey and Lady Gaga in Philadelphia last night, a star-studded event, making her final message to the electorate, and it was one of hope, it was one of joy, Sakina, it was one of bringing, the divisions to heel. She said she'll be a president for all Americans. That was part of her closing message. She offers a new generation of leadership, and she said she would invite those who disagree with her to the table. Trump warning the electorate that Trump was coming for their freedoms, particularly framing the abortion rights question, the access to reproductive rights as a central theme of her campaign. Trump, for his part, speaking in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a venue that he's used for final campaign speeches in the other two races that he's had in the last two election cycles. And he really does present a different view, right? A view of carnage and decay in America, largely due to open borders and illegal immigration, and alleged Democratic Party, Biden-Harris complicity. He talks about animals coming from other countries and we can't let them come in, and has made the economy, issues around inflation, immigration and border security very central themes of his campaign. The question is, how will the demographics break in the United States? This is the final day of voting, and this is the beginning of the end, if you will, right? We start counting ballots today. Some 75 million votes have already been cast in early voting, so this is the process that starts the end.
And of course, just looking at some of the policy issues that both of these candidates have touched on, Sherwin, where do you think it could actually turn for either one of these candidates? Because you look at healthcare reform as an example, or the economic situation in the United States. Yeah, how pivotal are these policy issues going to be for voters?
You've heard the phrase, it's the economy, stupid, right? It was coined by James Carville. He was a former special advisor to former President Bill Clinton when he was running his first campaign against George H.W. Bush in the 1992 general election. And that holds true today. It's always about the economy, no matter which country you're in. It's about pocketbook issues. Inflation had been very high for many months in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. And here's the good news if you're the Biden-Harris administration. Inflation is back down to around 2.1%. The Federal Reserve target is 2%, so it's pretty much where they want it to be. Interest rates have started coming down. The economy is growing the last quarter at around 2.8%. So the economy is ticking over. People are just not feeling the effect in their pockets yet. You know, economies are cyclical. It'll take time, but they are certainly moving in the right trajectory. Of course, Trump is making this a very central issue of his campaign at the beginning of his administration before the COVID pandemic. The economy was ticking over quite healthily while he was president. So he points to those years and he asks the question of Americans, were you better off 4 years ago than you were now? The answer, of course, is we were in the midst of a pandemic 4 years ago, so how could Americans possibly be better? But they do seem to remember the early days of his presidency as being better for the economy. Border security, of course, a big issue for him. He has made that a central theme of his campaign. But are women going to turn out en masse, Sakina, for Kamala Harris because of the restrictions that have been placed on reproductive rights and abortion care in the United States? Some states have very harsh restrictions. And so what we are seeing in some of the data in the early polls is that women, those middle-of-the-road voters, the ones, those swing voters that were waiting until the last moment, the data is showing us that women are now breaking for Harris in these late stages. How do we know that? There is a confident air among Harris and Democratic campaign staff. I saw an interview overnight with David Plouffe, who's a senior advisor to the Harris campaign, and he talks about how they have a path to victory in all of the 7 swing states. And the host sort of reframed the question, are you saying that you can win all 7? And the answer was yes. So the Harris campaign is demonstrating a little bit of confidence here in the closing stages, and what we are seeing in the Trump campaign is a little bit of nerves, a lot of anger, and a bit of the uncertainty, despite the fact, Sakina, that both campaigns say they are going to win this election.
And this, of course, is going to be critical. Then we also have that matter of gun control and public safety, which I would imagine is something that many Americans would be concerned with, Sherwin.
Well, let me tell you about gun control and safety in the context of this election, right? We have the last election and the example of what happened on January 6, 2021, when the U.S. Congress was certifying Joe Biden's election victory. They were riled up by this election lie put forward put forward by former President Donald Trump in his campaign, and that resulted in a violent attack on the United States Congress. So there is a lot of anxiety, not just about the outcome of this election, right? There are going to be a lot of sad people around later this week, a lot of happy people later this week, but the concern about violence, the concern around Donald Trump perhaps rejecting the outcome of this election as he did in 2020, were he to lose here, and what that looks like, right? How is he going to rile up his supporters? He has already been casting aspersions around the integrity of the election. There's a lot of pressure on election workers, on election infrastructure. We understand that law enforcement is completely heightened around the country in that regard. We've seen states like Nevada and Washington State out west activate the National Guard as, in an abundance of caution. And so the posture here is we really don't know how this is going to go and what might happen, and the possibility of violence there. And to your point about gun control, right, there's something called the Second Amendment in the United States, the right to bear arms, and let me tell you, there are a lot of weapons on the streets of the United States, and if things go awry here, what might that look like, right? People are armed to the hilt.
Cause for concern. But of course, looking forward, Sherwin, we'll speak again tomorrow morning very early when those results start coming through, and we'll talk to some of those strategies as well, perhaps to see how these candidates have gone about perhaps flipping some of those key swing states. But that's Sherwin Bryce Pease, our correspondent in the United States, and he's monitoring this story for us with a beady eye. That's all we have time for. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to the production team. It's 1 o'clock. Here's Dineo Motaung with your latest news. Thank you, Sakina. Top stories: case against two linked to the Liefman murder postponed, and AfriForum hands over memorandum on Bella. A very good afternoon. The George Magistrates Court in the Western Cape has postponed the case of two suspects arrested in connection with the gunning down of alleged underworld kingpin Mark Liefman to the 13th of this month. Senior police officials, including the Western Cape Police Commissioner, Tembisile Patekile, attended the suspect's court appearance this morning. Police have confirmed that the two men are South Africans and not Europeans, as some in the media had earlier reported. 57-year-old Liefman was killed at the Garden Route Mall in George on Sunday. He was scheduled to appear in the High Court in Cape Town yesterday on a number of charges, including the murder of stairway smuggler Brian Weinstein. Members of lobby group AfriForum and trade union Solidarity have handed a memorandum to government officials at Freedom Park in Pretoria. They marched from the Voortrekker Monument against the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act Bella. AfriForum and Solidarity say two clauses of the act take away the right of school governing bodies to make important decisions about admissions and language. AfriForum Scully Grill says the act in its current form is targeting Afrikaans schools.
Because the Bela Act is targeting Afrikaans schools specifically, and therefore it's targeting our children. And it also does not create space for mother tongue education for all. That is why we have to send out a clear message. Schools play a central role in our cultural survival. So this is not just a fight against the Act, it's a fight for cultural survival.
We move to KZN now, where the Cooperative Governance Department has confirmed the death of one person and in the serious injury of three others in Moimpofana local municipality in Mgungundlovu in a lightning strike yesterday. This as severe thunderstorms continue in the province. The South African Weather Service has issued a warning for strong and disruptive winds in some parts of the province from this evening to tomorrow. Forecaster Ayanda Nsele says temperatures are expected to improve later in the week.
But we still have 80% chance of rain for today and 60% in the north. We also have a disruptive rain yellow level 4 alert for the southeastern parts of the province and mainly along the south coast region. We also have damaging winds and waves alerts yellow level 2 for the coast of KZN from tonight into tomorrow morning, whereby we're expecting quite strong winds.
In other news, street vendors in Thokoza Park, Soweto, say they are losing business as a result of the suspension of the services of the Rea Vaya bus rapid transit system in Johannesburg. The suspension of bus services was announced yesterday following a dispute between the system's management and taxi operators in the area. It's not clear when operations will resume. Street vendor Zweli Mube says sales are extremely low.
I'm normally very busy here. This is a booming sport. They always support here because people are always traveling using the via bus. So right now, since there is no bus, the business is very slow. Nothing is happening. The business, it's not booming like before. So I'm losing money. I'm losing even the money that I'm stocking with. It goes to waste.
Lastly, analysts say South Africa has vested interest in the outcome of the U.S. elections, which will kick off today. South Africa's participation in the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, hangs in the balance if Donald Trump becomes president again. AGOA, a trade agreement between African countries and the U.S., allows duty-free access to U.S. markets. Some analysts say markets will take a wait-and-see approach amid the uncertainty of the U.S. presidential election outcome. One of the most closely fought presidential election campaigns in U.S. history has drawn to a close. Trump and Kamala Harris have made their final pitch to voters. Harris held a final rally in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
America is ready for a fresh start, ready for a new way forward where we see our fellow American not as an enemy, but as a neighbor.
Recapping the top story this hour, the George Magistrates Court in the Western Cape has postponed the case of 2 suspects arrested in connection with the gunning down of alleged underworld kingpin Mark Liffman to the 13th of this month. Headlines at 1:30 for SFM News. I am Dino Mutaung.
The Film Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
Did you know the Freight Logistics Roadmap, developed by the Department of Transport in collaboration with Operation Vulindlela and approved by Cabinet in 2023, is a blueprint to tackle the crisis that plagues the logistics sector? It sets out an evidence-based path for reforms to allow economic growth and transformation. It promotes a seamless and cost-effective system, a modernized rail system towards the creation of jobs and effective infrastructure investment in both rail and ports. In cooperation with the National Logistics Crisis Committee, a coherent and integrated response to the logistics crisis is certain.
Brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
For 120 years, Rhodes University has shaped history. From Sir George Corey's pioneering 62 conversations capturing the early history of the Eastern Cape, to the first email to be sent in South Africa, and now leading the way in nanotechnology. Rhodes University is more than an educational institution. We are a legacy in motion. Be part of the evolving legacy. Rhodes University, where leaders learn.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
I'm drifting away into the darkness. Is a tattoo twirl on the neck and all of my so lift my head up high, open my eyes, and I will fly. Oh, I'm barely coping, I'm feeling closing, looking up, hoping the heavens will open. Daddy, we're solo. Now the light is shining brighter, but I'm
Amanda Black coming through with Amazulu. That is how we kick off the show this afternoon. And, I think in our part of the world, we are all hopeful that Amazulu will, in fact, avuleke namhlanje. We're seeing that it's quite cloudy outside and there's been sort of little spatters here and there of raindrops, and hopefully it will continue to something a little bit more substantial by the time the day is over. If there was ever a province that needed rainfall right now, it is definitely this one of Gauteng. Good afternoon to you. I hope that you've had a great day thus far in whichever corner of the world or the country you are at. In fact, of the world as well, because some of you do stream us on our streaming platforms from all over as your way of keeping connected and keeping in touch with everything that's currently transpiring in SA, in the country. And there's a lot by way of the news cycle, and no doubt we will dip into some of the themes and conversations that pertain to this show, and of course the rest of my colleagues will also cast their eyes on greater matters, especially around politics. Right now, though, we're going to be having a conversation. Remember last week we wanted to have this conversation with the University of Pretoria and find out about the work that they do through their clinic for high-risk babies. And so we're going to have that conversation today. They're doing a lot of work in Pretoria, at the University of Pretoria, a lot of work that pertains to the audiology department and pathology department, and we've since learned this in the last couple of months. We've had quite a few conversations with respective lecturers and professors that are driving interesting programs over there. We also are going to be dipping into another significant event that's being hosted in South Africa for the first time. City of Cape Town playing host to the Earthshot Prize, and it is the 4th annual Earthshot Prize that's going to be taking place over in Cape Town over the next couple of days. We'll find out more about this global movement that speaks towards sustainable futures. Also coming up today on the other side of 2 o'clock, because it is Tuesday, Health and Wellness, and we're talking Movember. So we opening the lines of communication to you gents. We haven't touched base with y'all from a health perspective in quite a while, and we thought we would do so for Movember. We'll talk all things health and wellness for gentlemen. So anything and everything is on the cards with our general practitioner today. If you need some advice, you need some guidance, you need some clarity, you need some direction, you need some information as it pertains to your health, we've got you covered on 061-410-4107 on our WhatsApp line. And of course, you can always call my producers as well on 086-000-2032, and they'll definitely patch you in. I'll let you know what else is coming up throughout the course of the show, because there is quite a bit on the agenda. Let's take a quick pause here and then we'll come right back.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Totally detached, recharged and flourishing you on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3. As coach Alicia Drummond offers practical steps to a less is more lifestyle. HR specialist Utat Omabelane shares key skills to revitalize your career. Plus, overnight oats is the perfect after-gym recharger. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
So Eskom has made it easy for you to recode your meter. Customers must recode their meters by the 24th of November. All Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters before the 24th of November 2024. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. So Eskom has made this process easy for you. They've pre-coded all the meters and they are now ready for you to recode your meter yourself. And to do this, you simply have to go to any Eskom approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token. Our teams are standing by to help.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's get into our first conversation for the afternoon with Dr. Renata Eccles, who's a senior lecturer at the Department of Speech, Language Pathology and Audiology at the University of Pretoria. Good afternoon to you, Doc. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for the time. Let's firstly, I think, let's get some context. You know, I was saying that in recent months, I've had a few conversations with your colleagues at the university, various colleagues at the University of Pretoria, and it seems like there's a lot of work being done with the Department of Speech, Language Pathology and Audiology at the university.
Yes, our department really tries to stay dynamic. We are involved in a lot of research projects. In addition, we have a lot of community engagement projects going on, and we have public clinics within our department. And that's all in addition to our theoretical teaching.
And beautiful stuff, I think, because I think all institutions, to some degree, have the responsibility, right, to sort of go in and out of their communities to also offer some of these expertise and services. Give us some context around the clinic that you also run, the Clinic for High-Risk Babies.
Yes, so the clinic was formed in 1990 when by an audiologist and two speech language therapist lecturers. Two of them were head of departments at different times. And there was a lot of research coming in about the benefits of early intervention, starting very young, how it's better for the child, you reach the outcomes much faster, it's more encouraging for the family, and economically, it's the best solution and it has the best long-term effects as well. So all of that research was coming out, and they really looked at how do we get young children to provide young children with communication difficulties, be it whatever condition, how do we service and support from a young age. So the clinic started then in 1990, so it's 34 years old now, and it's seen many children. And from there, we have provided services. So currently, we provide services, we do assessments on one morning a week where we see young children, ideally between the ages of 0 and 3, although due to late identification in South Africa, we do see children that are potentially a little bit older, but they don't then get to stay in our clinic as long because then it's not early intervention. There's other needs that need to be addressed. And we do assessments. They are family-centered assessments. So the family and the child, the parents and the child come into our clinic. They do not get separated. They are there together. The parents input and report from what the child does at home in terms of communication, behavior, interaction is as important as the assessments we do with the child. And then from there we make recommendations. It's myself and my colleague, Dr. Cedric Creer, that work in the clinic, and we have fourth-year speech language pathology students that assess with us, and then there is an audiology component where we do a full hearing test as well. Final year audiology students under the supervision of lecturers as well. So it's a full in-house service that morning. It's a long morning for families, but it's very comprehensive. From there, we make recommendations, and then we start providing early communication intervention, is what we call it. And we use a very family-centered approach there as well, where we do parent-led intervention. So it's very community-based in terms of our services are not us providing therapy. It's about us working with the family.
Let's also understand, Dr. Renate, you say that you focus primarily on young children with communication difficulties. So what kinds of categories or spectrum of children and families are, walking through the doors of your clinic?
Yes, predominantly the clients that we have currently have autism spectrum disorder. That is our most prevalent condition that we are seeing. We see many children with cleft lip and palate and or cleft lip and palate. We see children with various genetic difficulties that potentially are undiagnosed. Because of the nature of communication, it's often the first place you go when your child is young and not speaking or not looking like they're staying quiet or understanding like their peers. And so speech language therapy is often where parents start asking questions. So we will often make a referral to a geneticist or pediatric neurologist that then the greater primary diagnosis may come from. So yes, children with various genetic difficulties, autism, cleft lip and palate. We've had children with Down syndrome, we've had children with hearing loss, and children that just have language disorder, delayed language development is also what we're seeing.
So quite the broad spectrum of kids and families that require intervention, and I think probably a welcomed resource in the community as well, because I know a lot of times when we speak primarily to moms who are supporting young kids that have been diagnosed with autism, the outcry is always on the lack of resource, particularly if we focus on black and colored communities, the lack of resource and the lack of early awareness of what they are dealing with.
Certainly. I think because of where we are situated within Hatfield, we do receive various families. We provide services to a higher income population and a low income population, and our clinic fees work on a scale accordingly to what people are able to afford, so that it makes it accessible to everyone. And because Hatfield is quite central, that also assists the accessibility. And so I do think the difficulty is in government services, the waiting list makes it very long, that the opportunity that early intervention gives decreases because the waiting lists are so long that you see the child closer to the end of 3 years old. And private is not accessible to a large portion of South Africa. And so we've got this in-between that we can then fill, and we do. We have many people seeking out our services because of that. It is accessible, there's not long lines of waiting, but it's affordable. So we are helping families that otherwise wouldn't get services. And I think that is something that we really try and pride ourselves. We never turn anyone away. We always try and help them.
And how do you, if as a clinic, as an academic clinic, your fees work on the scale of affordability for community, which is a commendable thing, but obviously then there needs to be some kind of subsidizing to be able to resource you guys. Who do you lean on for financial support and resources as a clinic and a facility to just ensure that your doors and your services continue?
Well, we are very lucky that we are part of student training. So it forms part of our students' training and their blocks, their practical blocks. Our students, it's a professional degree where you have to do a certain number of practical hours, and that forms part of it. So the university does provide for us to have services to train students. So we have the equipment, we have the therapy rooms, and that then supplements that actually whatever we earn by the clinic actually supplements and adds to what the university already provides to us. So we are well supported by our faculty.
Okay, I get you. Talk to us about, and because you've mentioned it 3 or 4 times, the importance of early opportunity, early intervention, and the opportunity that provides for families. Let's expand on that a little bit.
Well, really, we know that as I said at the beginning, the benefits that you get for the individual, for the family, for the community and for a larger future going forward as well, time-wise. But it always is better if you start earlier. The problems are easier to solve. The children are more willing and perhaps not aware. The family doesn't have, they are supported from early on before struggling through and then getting support. And the child, the problems can be reduced or overcome, where the child can then grow and contribute to society. So we know that for early intervention. And that should happen between birth and 3 years old due to brain development. The brain is the most receptive until 3 years old. It doesn't mean that our brains now are not receptive. It's just that it is most receptive there. It's the most susceptible to positive and negative. So we want to put as much positive in them. Actually, what we are now aiming for, ideally, is not even by 3, but by 2 years old. The first 1,000 days are the most important, from conception to 2 years old, because we know maternal health is becoming more and more important for future child health and abilities and development. So really, if we have to look at it, we do a lot of prevention and promotion in communities, especially high-risk communities or low-resource communities that are therefore high risk. So, to encourage better early childhood development. So we try and get to the moms when the baby is here. We try and get to the baby, and then later we try and get to the toddlers by 2. But sometimes you get them by 3, and sometimes there's late identification, and you've got a 4.5-year-old, or up until 5. Is what we kind of have in our clinics, because we are trying to get to people early, but that's not always the case. After that, you really have to start looking differently. You're not just looking at development, because then schooling becomes much more. Below 5, below 4, we are looking at learning language, learning communication. As you approach grade R and older, your language has to be strong enough to help you learn. You use your language then to learn. So that's why we really have to tackle the young before the demand of applying your language academically comes in.
Makes perfect sense. And as we wrap it up, Dr. Renata, because I know that we are bound to receive some delayed communications from folks listening to us, who may have young children in those tender ages of 0 to 3, 4, 5, who, maybe they've already been diagnosed with autism, or there's a suspicion that there could be some kind of communication difficulty, and folks want to reach out to you and your clinic. What is the easiest line of communication for folks to be in touch, to know, so that they can ask the questions around whether or not they are eligible, matters around becoming part of some of the programs and interventions, etc.?
They are concerned about any communication, can certainly contact us. We also provide tele-services, so it doesn't just mean within the Pretoria area. I think the best would be is to contact my colleague, Isiadua Kriya, but it's an email address is tricky to give. But if you look at the Department of Speech Language Pathology and Audiology, University of Pretoria, you will find us on the staff list, Isiadua and Renata, and our emails are there. Awesome. And if you find anyone on that website, they will put you in contact with us.
Wonderful. Dr. Renata Eccles, thank you so much for the time. She's a senior lecturer with the Department of Speech, Language Pathology and Audiology at the University of Pretoria. And as you heard, if you are a family perhaps that's affected by a communication diagnosis with your little one, you can definitely be in touch with them via the university's website. I know the reluctance to give the emails, because the university emails are always just constructed weird. So it's better to just go to the University of Pretoria, look up the Department of Speech, Language Pathology and Audiology, and then just cut and copy the email addresses for Dr. Renata and her colleagues as you see them. It's just gone 1:30.
Well, the headlines at 1:30. I'm Dino Mataung. Good afternoon. The 12th World Urban Economic Forum is underway, marking its second return to Africa. In other news, the George Magistrates Court in the Western Cape has postponed the case of 2 suspects arrested in connection with the gunning down of alleged underworld kingpin Mark Liffman to the 13th of this month. And the U.S. has again urged Israel to increase the delivery of humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.6 FM in Palabora. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, it is the first circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM as the show continues. We're just working out something here behind the scenes, and then we will get on with the conversation of the day. But like I said, on the other side of 2 o'clock, by the way, our lines are open, gents. We invite you for this one. We're talking health and wellness. It's Movember after all. So we're having a conversation around just, common general men's health checkups and issues and things. So if you want to ask a little something, have a little information given to you, then you absolutely are more than welcome to send us a voice note on 061-410-4107, because the doctor is going to be in the house after 2 o'clock. Don't delay, don't wait until the last minute, and then you'll bombard us in the last 5 minutes of our conversations with medical professionals, and you want to ask everything under the sun, and by then the time is gone and they can't respond to you. So rather send your queries now, or the things you need clarity on right now, so it can be addressed by the respective medical professional. Right now, though, we're getting into stages, pages, screens, and more. We're looking at a new exhibition that's exploring the personal journey of psychosis. Manuela Holzer joins me now, who is a sculptural artist. How are you doing, Manuela?
I'm very well. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for the time. Much appreciated. You are in the thick of things this week in Cape Town. So much going on with the Earthshot Prize and other things as well. Hopefully, you'll get some time also to just yourself personally as an artist, maybe find yourself in a space where your work and your narrative can be presented to all of your visitors.
Yes. So also I will be doing a walkabout on the 13th of November at 1 p.m.
Oh,
so it's right. Yeah, so it's open to the public, and I'm enjoying just sharing the work, which is a huge privilege for me and an honor.
Wonderful. Now let's talk about the work. So you are presenting Psychotic Insight, an exhibition that intricately weaves a 5-year journey through psychosis with your artistic expression. Unpack for us what that all means.
So the whole PhD journey throughout these 5 years, I've been attempting to make sense of and find meaning in my experience of psychosis, which I've experienced 3 times. 3 psychotic episodes. So art making was a way of finding meaning in those experiences. And leading up to the PhD study, I created the large female figures of the shadow series, life-size shadow series, which were made in melted black plastic, and elements such as the texture and vulnerable poses aim to communicate the deep shame and self-stigma that I felt after I was immediately diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder type 1 after my very first psychotic episode. So in that sense, the Immaterial Realm series, which were created from a sand casting technique in cement, show a very different interpretation of my experiences that are personally meaningful, which I developed over the course of a PhD study. And it's only through engaging with the art in that sense that I was able to present this personally meaningful narrative, which is the Immaterial Realm series is about the surreal human figure that's grappling with consensus reality and the alternative realm that I associate with the spiritual realm. So it's a very different way of looking at psychosis.
Has your personal academic as well as your artistic expression always found an intersection through your work?
Yes, so definitely. So I always focus on my own experience because I feel that is where I can actually excel in most, because experiential expertise is what I feel I can only have the right to speak about from my own point of view and my own perspective. So I've always tried to grapple with my most vulnerable self, and that has been a challenge, but I feel that the gift is also in the wound, that expression, and that's where I'm trying to also, because when I started with my PhD study with psychosis, I was very scared about how I would, because there was so much shame and self-stigma, but that's where I wanted to go, right into the heart of that vulnerability, and my art has always been a reflection of pure vulnerability.
And a very sort of interesting perspective, right? That you sort of approach the work by wanting to not hide and shy away, but to go straight into that vulnerability, where a lot of times some artists, when you speak to them in conversation, it's quite the opposite. They want to run from the vulnerability by presenting a perception of what maybe they think is strength and courage and all the stuff that is acceptable.
I think there's a space for every type of art, and sometimes I find uplifting art and what could be considered superficial, or what is dealing with not dealing with the darker aspect or the vulnerability aspect or things like that. But I feel every art has its value and communicates something necessary in some shape or form.
And I mean, your figures, for instance, I'm looking at your shadow series. They really do strike cause for one to just pause and have a look, because a lot is being said yet not being said, just by virtue of how they've been staged and posed in particular places.
Yes, so they are extremely vulnerable poses. Some of they're mostly almost floor-based, so in some way collapsed onto the floor, and they are very strong emotional work, and the poses are, I'm struggling to find the words, but they are very more dealing with the darker emotions that I was grappling with. And I was unaware at the time that I was dealing with this extreme shame and self-stigma. And I did 20 of these large figures that are approximately life-size. And I was just trying to figure out what was that all about, because I had just accepted this view of psychosis, which made me feel broken and dysfunctional and weak. And reframing it was very empowering.
Is there also something to be connected with the technique of the sculptures? Because they're not necessarily, smoothly, they're quite textured and rugged and rough and almost imperfect in how they've been texturized. Is there anything for us to read into that?
Yes, so materiality and texture has always been a key feature of my work so far, and basically the texture of the melted black plastic was I melted the plastic with a heat gun, which is quite a toxic process, but conceptually it reflects back to what I was grappling with at the time, which is what I mentioned previously. And essentially that texture, when applied to the poses, can be read as charred flesh in a way. So it emphasizes on many different levels the shame, the self-stigma, and the pain associated with that, extreme pain that I felt. And I can only speak from my own experience, my own understanding of the research that I've engaged with.
I mean, a very interesting conversation, and I think just your willingness to also take us as appreciators of a medium along the journey with you. From what I read, also, the 3 episodes that you mentioned earlier, the 3 psychotic episodes that you mentioned earlier, all 3 of them gave you a different journey and a different perspective that you then interpreted uniquely, across various pieces of work.
Yes, definitely. So it was an evolving journey throughout the 3 episodes. So the first episode, I was filled with a lot of shame and self-stigma. Then in 2017, then in 2020, I started engaging with MAD studies, which for my PhD, which I felt quite empowering because I could sort of engage with an alternative interpretation of my experiences. And I started to become slowly more empowered. But it was only after my 3rd psychotic episode that I found that interpretation. And I grappled with it, and I came to realize it was, for me personally, a spiritual understanding of my experiences, and that was very empowering for me. But my main purpose of the art is not only a personal function of catharsis and congruent expression, but also to humanize the condition, psychosis, and to counter negative stereotypes and stigmas.
Wonderful stuff, and thank you so much for the conversation. So the exhibition, as Manuela said, forms part of a final presentation for her PhD studies, and of course it's installed at the Stellenbosch University Museum. It's been open since the 19th of October, and it's running until the 6th of December, so you can still catch it, and if you cast your eye on her social media platforms, then you'll be able to track when she has those artist walkabouts, and her handle is at Manuela_Holzer_art. Thank you so much for the contribution. And these days I've taken it upon myself, Manuela, to hint to sculptural artists specifically that can we please also have miniatures, because some of us don't have these big brawling yards where we can put life-scaled sculptures, so we'd appreciate little miniatures that we can at least put on our desktop. Oh, she's gone. Okay.
No, I'm here. Sorry. I create smaller sculptures as well, and I sell them in bronze and so on, where I can experiment with various different finishes. And some can be seen at Blauklippen, for example.
Okay.
They're from miniatures to half-life size and so on. So, I experienced with various different sizes. But for this PhD specifically, it was the large works where I reached the height of those emotions. So, definitely. Thank you, Bridget. It was such an honor, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the time, Manuela, and congratulations, by the way, on wrapping up your academic journey. That was Manuela Holzer, sculptural artist. So that exhibition, once again, is at the Stellenbosch University Museum, and it's running until the 6th of December, if you want to cast your eye on it for those life-scale sculptures. And the miniatures as well, if you go on her Instagram page, she's got, small-sized sculptures that you can mount up on your desk or on your mantle. and they're quite beautiful. So I've learned to start hinting towards that with sculptural artists, because I realized that a lot of them actually mold the life-size figures. They mold them first as tiny little things, just so that they can work through it and see it, and then they scale it up to these ginormous things. So I've become quite curious to know what happens to those little ones, and wanting to start a little collection of little sculptures. It's just gone 2:45 on the Full Circle. Myself, Bridget Masinga. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back on the other side.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only a brush? Or hang a picture on just a nail and a press? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumele Mkhune, SABC Sports football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Está bem. What I like about the SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumele Mkhune's analysis of Ebola Leju on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. Friday weekend on a high note with final analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Theodora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis, the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also, available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
There's never a dull moment when South Africa share the cricket field with India. Africa takes on Asia at the battleground of Kingsmead in Durban. What is summer without cricket? Catch the thrilling first T20 international action between South Africa and India on Friday, 8 November at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and 5 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
As the conversation continues, don't forget, by the way, that we're inviting you to our annual lecture. This time around, it's delivered by the formidable former minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, under the theme 30 Years of South African Democracy, Reimagining South Africa's Democracy, Achievements, Challenges, and the Road Ahead in Protecting Our Democratic gains. So it's going to be happening on the 21st of November out at Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center right here in Boksburg. And you can secure your seat by simply emailing us at info@safm.co.za. That's info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
You are listening to the Food Circle.
All right, we're catching up with Dr. Lucille Singh now, who is a clinical hematologist. I hope I got that correct. And we are going to be having a conversation around CML. And Dr. Singh, I am very reluctant to try and pronounce CML because I'm clear on the chronic and the leukemia, but the middle is got me in a chokehold. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good. Hi, Bridget. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's only a pleasure. So let's get to the basics. Unpack and define for us the acronym that I've just used. What is CML?
Okay, so chronic myeloid leukemia. So, as the name suggests, it is a chronic condition. When people think of leukemia, you think of acute leukemia, which happens quite, quickly. You're in hospital, you're on chemo, you're losing your hair, you're getting stem cell transplants. So, that's sort of the classic picture we see when we hear that somebody has leukemia. Right, so that's the one end of the spectrum. There are a couple of leukemias that are chronic, right? So this means it starts sort of insidiously, it grumbles for years. You can be on treatment for years, and it's a very sort of different disease entity. So when we talk of chronic myeloid leukemia, it basically means a chronic leukemia coming from the bone marrow. Myeloid literally means bone marrow. So it's not, there's a lot of people who have it, but there's not a lot of people who sort of know that it exists as a disease entity.
Okay, and what are some of the more common symptoms and symptoms and signs that one might need to seek help and clarify whether or not they have chronic myeloid leukemia?
Okay, so actually nowadays we diagnose a lot of these people just on routine blood tests. So the majority of people that we see nowadays diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia, it's actually referrals from, GPs or other specialists where they've done blood counts for other reasons and then they notice there's problems on the blood counts. So by the time you start getting symptoms, the process is a little bit further along. Leukemia basically means an increase in white blood cells in the blood. That, white cells, usually they fight infection. In the setting of leukemia, they go up for no rhyme or reason, and they basically tangentially just increase. So when the white cells go up, the other blood counts go down. Right? So when the red cells go down, you're anemic. So a lot of patients come in complaining of fatigue, they look pale. When the platelets go down, you bleed easily. When the white cells go up also, there's more blood cells now floating through the blood vessels. There's sluggish flow through the blood vessels, especially in the lungs, heart, you feel short of breath, you're fatigued, you lose weight, night sweats. And then specifically in chronic myeloid leukemia also you can get a big spleen. So, most people, if you ask them to point out their spleen, they don't know what it is. It's just stuck under your rib cage on the left. So if you feel your spleen, it means it's big. A healthy person, you should not be able to feel your spleen. So if you're lying down and you feel this mass coming from, under the left rib cage, that implies a big spleen. So we see a lot of people who come in complaining of pain in that area, especially after meals, feeling full easily. Remember, the spleen sits right next to the stomach. So if your spleen is big, you're going to feel pain or, after eating. So by the time you're getting symptoms, it means there's a lot of change already going on in the body.
So, okay, so I mean, from what I'm understanding, by the time one is symptomatic to a point where you can feel and sense the pain and the discomforts and everything, it's already a little bit further along the way. So how do we then try and curb the with CML, or at least get a diagnosis early on if you're not presenting with these kind of signs? Are they early onset?
Yes. So the early symptoms would be fatigue.
Okay.
Right, from mild anemia. Some people notice that, their palms are getting pale. Loss of weight, without even trying to lose weight. They're not intentionally losing weight, but it's kind of just, dripping off you. Bone pain in somebody who hasn't had bone pain, before, sort of lower back, hip pain, the long bones, especially like thighs, shins, that kind of thing. Those are sort of early or more subtle changes that happen in the beginning.
Got you. Okay. All right. Now, who's at risk? Who's at risk for chronic myeloid leukemia?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like anybody, there's no sort of typical patient. It can happen in young people, older people. I mean, we see it in kids, teenagers, not so much. We more so typically see it in adults, but anyone on the age spectrum basically is vulnerable. And that's irrespective of whether you've had a family history or not of cancer. Most of the patients we see with CML, they otherwise well, they've got no family history, any significant medical, family history. So anyone is basically susceptible to it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So I think, that's the scary thing. I think, as with most cancers, you can screen as much as you want. You can think you're not a typical patient, but I think the lifetime risk for all of us basically has increased.
Absolutely. So then, all right, so now that we've got sort of a vague picture, someone kind of is suspecting after our conversation, or their tentacles are up and thinking that maybe they need to consult or see somebody, where do we start?
So I think your GP is a good place to start because, this presentation of CML, it's typical for a couple of other sort of blood or bone marrow disorders as well. And generally CML, you can diagnose it on a simple blood test.
Okay.
Right. So if you're anemic for unknown reasons, if you've got a spleen, it's sort of a simple, relatively cheap test to start with, a blood count. Okay. There's a lot that you can pick up from a blood count, not just in terms of diagnosing CML, but ruling out other, other sort of diseases that could mimic this picture.
Okay. I mean, I think we are well informed now, and definitely going to be staying away from those pesky little sites where we go and get information, because Dr. Lucille has given us a clear picture here. Let me just quickly ask you this, just as a final note. By way of treatment success, is this something that has a high treatment results or high treatment averages?
So just on that note, I mean, this is the first sort of cancer where they picked up the genetic mutation in the cancer cells that causes it. Right. So after they pick that up, they actually, there's specific targeted tablet forms of therapy for this that target the genetic mutation. And this is the first sort of cancer to basically have a targeted treatment. And it's what scientists, pharmaceutical companies are trying to mimic with a lot of other cancers. Can we pick up the genetic defects that went wrong in the cell? Can we target it and translate that into a treatment? And CML is the first disease that actually did this in.
Yeah.
So, the kind of historically sets it apart from other cancers. Then we take a benchmark for what is possible with cancer treatment.
Wonderful. Dr. Lucille Singh, we appreciate the time and, of course, the knowledge this afternoon. And she is a clinical hematologist walking us through, chronic myeloid leukemia, and hopefully arming you with some information as well as easing some anxiety. Let's go to the news with Daneo, and then on the other side of this, we're going to continue on that health and wellness tip, and we're looking at, just answering some of your more common health issues, particularly if you're a man or there's something you want to ask on behalf of the man in your life. You're more than welcome to do so. On 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, or 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on.
top stories. 12th World Urban Economic Forum underway in Egypt, and Blinken urges Israel to increase Gaza aid. With the news, I'm Dino Montaung. Good afternoon. The 12th World Urban Economic Forum is underway, marking its second return to Africa. Delegates have convened in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, for the first day of sessions and workshops. They're exchanging ideas on various urban development issues. South Africa's Human Settlements Minister Mameloko Kubai will facilitate a dialogue between India, Brazil and South Africa on the transformation of slums. Kubai says it's important to learn from other countries' best practices on how to deal with slums.
What we want to utilize that is a platform where we could be able to learn from other countries how they are doing it, what has been, obviously we'll take the consideration of our own domestic laws, different to theirs, and how they are able to eradicate those. Because the important thing as we deal with climate change is to move people from informal setting to formality.
In other news, the George Magistrates Court in the Western Cape has postponed the case of two suspects arrested in connection with the gunning down of alleged underworld kingpin Mark Liffman to the 13th of this month. Senior police officials, including the Western Cape Police Commissioner, Tembisile Patekile, attended the suspect's court appearance this morning. Police have confirmed that the two men are South Africans and not Europeans, as some in the media had earlier reported. 57-year-old Liffman was killed at the Garden Route Mall in George on Sunday. He was scheduled to appear in the High Court in Cape Town yesterday on a number of charges, including the murder of steroid smuggler Brian Weinstein. In Gauteng, the Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina has reiterated that the water crisis in the province is self-inflicted. She says municipalities were warned as early as June to take care of the water infrastructure in the province. This, as most parts of the province have been battling with water cuts in recent weeks. Majodina was briefing the media on the department's performance during its first 100 days.
It is important to state that there is no drought in Gauteng. However, the province is experiencing water security challenges, which include credit management issues, water losses, aging infrastructure, illegal connections, illegal mining, and servitude encroachment. The provincial government have intervened to address the challenges by calling on all municipalities in Gauteng to impose water restrictions.
Moving to KZN, the Cooperative Governance Department has confirmed the death of one person and the serious injury of three others in Bafana local municipality in Gungundlovu in a lightning strike yesterday. This as severe thunderstorms continue in the province. The South African Weather Service has issued a warning for strong and disruptive winds in some parts of the province from this evening to tomorrow. Forecaster Ayanda Nsele says temperatures are expected to improve later in the week.
That we still have 80% chance of rain for today and 60% in the north. We also have a disruptive rain yellow level 4 alert for the southeastern parts of the province and mainly along the south coast region. We also have damaging winds and waves alerts yellow level 2 for the coast of KZN from tonight into tomorrow morning, whereby we're expecting quite strong winds.
Lastly, the U.S. has again urged Israel to increase the delivery of humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. The Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, delivered the message in a call with the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The BBC's Joe Inwood has the details.
The warnings about the humanitarian situation in Gaza have been growing increasingly dire. The head of UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinians, which was recently banned by Israel, said just 30 trucks a day were being allowed to enter. The U.S. Secretary of State said it's a situation that needs to improve and fast if U.S. military aid is to continue at current levels. Anthony Blinken also criticized Hamas for refusing to release any hostages in order to facilitate a temporary truce.
Recapping the top story this hour, the 12th World Urban Economic Forum is underway, marking its second return to Africa. Delegates have convened in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, for the first day. Headlines at 2:30 for SFM News. I am Dino Montaung.
The Film Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only your brush? Or hang a picture on just a nail and a press? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Puco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Puco.
What up, family? It's your boy Ken Key, leader of the new school, leader of the kids. And we are out here Back to the City 2024. Catch my performance on SABC 1 Mzansi O Show.
For all the hip-hop heads, check out the Back to the City special, Saturday 9 November at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1.
You are listening to the Food Circle.
Kolokoti semakilweni 340. Yo, come on. That's for sure, bro. I think because the 340. Like brother ya Karuli yo Yakshaya yo
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
It's just gone 2 o'clock, fast approaching 10 past 2 as we enter the second hour of the show. 340 Mil coming through with Shotgun. You gotta love to love them. Earlier on, about a few minutes ago, just before the top of the hour, we were playing that promo by Itumeleng Kune where he was filing a Portuguese. Seems like Portuguese is his favorite language, and then it inspired us to play 340 Mil on the other side of 2 because some of the members come from Mozambique. They are citizens and descendants of Mozambique. Right now, though, we are having because it's Tuesday, so we're still pretty much sticking on a medical theme today for the better part of the show. A few weeks ago, we actually were having a conversation about something completely different medically, and then we received a lot of delayed WhatsApps from gents just asking, general health questions. So we figured we haven't had a conversation with you gents that's general, around your health and your wellness, physical, mental things that you are feeling, the achy pachies, all these things that happen. And we know that when we actually invite you to have this conversation, it always surprises me how eager you are to have this conversation. So we thought we'd open up our lines on 061-410-4107. That's our WhatsApp line. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note there if there's something that you want to ask the good doctor, the doctor's in the house, or 086-000-2032 if you want to talk to the doctor directly, get some information, get some advice about something, the aches, the pains, the things, the chubabas, the things that, you are seeing or feeling or experiencing. And as per usual, we always say that our medical practitioners are indeed certified for their profession, and this is what they do for a living, so they can give you advice, they can give you information, but they can't make a specific clinical diagnosis. They can just help you so that you can go to your respective doctor, or they can point you in the direction of a specialist or a department, or if you are looking for a resource, maybe they know where you can go and get the kind of consultation that you require so that you can have a more specific diagnosis for whatever it is. But they guide, they're very good at guiding us along these conversations. And Dr. Abel Tlalane is one of those professionals who's afforded us his time in our history of the show, a general practitioner in private practice, joining us today. How are you doing this afternoon, Dr. Abel?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you, ma'am? I hope I'm coming out loud and clear on your side. My phone is giving me problems, but I've just asked someone to borrow me.
No, touch wood. Touch wood, you're coming out loud and clear, so hopefully it holds. We appreciate the time with you today, and of course for availing yourself. Men's health is, I find that men's health is crucial. It's such a crucial thing, but I also find that men are very reluctant to walk into your office and your colleague's office to just even do things like general checkups. Even on months like November, where we heighten awareness around men's health issues, men seem very reluctant to just go get a general annual checkup.
Yeah, but I will differ with you there.
Okay.
We are observing that men are coming out now to come and check. As the women, married men mostly, they come with their wives, they also say, Doc, please also do my general checkup and everything. But they are coming out. Previously, yes, they were very reluctant. But
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so married men are coming. Because they've been dragged to the doctor's office by the government to say, was this your check? To write it. No, I like it. As long as we're seeing an increase in men coming out to go get checked up. Let's talk about why it's important for guys to even just go for general annual checkups with a general GP.
Let's start by saying, we South Africans, we need to prioritize our lives nowadays, because, if you move around in the township, you see lots of men, in the corners, having beer and all these things, which is not so good, maybe because of most of them haven't got anything to do, besides having to go and see a doctor. Now, regular checkups and medical screening are very important, because they reduce the risk of developing life-threatening conditions, not to talk about it earlier on. Because we know that early diagnosis will lead to a treatment plan with a higher recovery rate. And then, if you see, for instance, a cancer coming before it reaches its ugly end, you can look it. Now, you can only pick that up if you do your general checkups or yearly checkups.
Yeah. Dr. Abel, my team just wants to swap the line quickly and try your WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick pause here, but our lines are open on 061-410-4107. That's our WhatsApp line if you want to send through a query, or perhaps you want to ask the doctor something. Maybe you've noticed something, or there's something that is concerning you about your health, something has changed, physically, or maybe you're just feeling something that's a little bit different or a little bit off. You're more than welcome to send through your question to the doctor or your observation, 061-410-4107. And already Dr. Abel is reinforcing what Dr. Lucille said in our previous conversation when we were talking about CML, chronic myeloid leukemia. And she was saying that a lot of the symptoms are actually picked up by general practitioners while you are going for that general annual checkup with a doctor. They will pick up things that are a little bit off, and then they'll make referrals for you to then go see a specialist. So very important to go for that general annual checkup. I mean, as women, we've got our own tick boxes of things that we go do once a year. Our pap smears, we go through and visit our OBGYNs and go through that awkward consultation, but it's very, very necessary. That's where we also get our breast cancer screening and a whole bunch of other things, just once a year. And then you can go on with the rest of the year knowing that, you're A-okay, or there's something that you've got to attend to that is pressing. It's the thing about health. You can't bury your head in the sand and hope that it all goes away. You need to find things out sooner rather than later. So whilst they just secure that line, our WhatsApps are open, 061 410 4107. We've got Dr. Abel back. Okay, great. Let's talk about, or let's look at some of the most common things that maybe you pick up in general practice that men might not be aware of, or that they tend to overlook. But, these are things of significant medical importance.
Yeah. Okay, I've identified at least there's about 10 of them, but because of time constraints, I'll discuss 6 of them.
Okay.
And the number one that I think is very important that the men should be going out to go and check out for is a prostate cancer. Because, according to the Cancer Association of South Africa, prostate cancer is the most common of the cancer affecting men's health globally, and it's a disease that it's a leading cause of death, second to, when it comes to me, that's the second one is a cardiovascular diseases. The cardiovascular disease is a term used to describe diseases and conditions that affect the heart and the blood vessels. Now, with this, we see things like heart failure, heart attack, congenital heart diseases, cardiac arrests, atherosclerosis, arrhythmias, and angina. Angina is that sort of a blood vessel disease of the heart, where the heart doesn't get enough oxygenation. As a result, it tends to die. And then you get dyspneic, run short of breath. That's what we call angina. And some of the risk factors associated with these cardiovascular diseases is high blood pressure. We know that about 45% of men, South African men, are hypertensive, and only 20% are on treatment, and only 5% are under control. So you can see the statistics. We've got a very high incidence of high blood pressure in South Africa. We've got high cholesterol levels. Men actually, from the age of 55, they must be going to test at least 3 to 5 times. Every 3 to 5 years to check if their cholesterol is not bad. We've got obesity, inactivity, like sedentary work, diabetes, which is also a leading cause of death, second to hypertension among the cardiovascular diseases. Because we've got something like 7 billion South Africans which are living with diabetes. Now, we've got also smoking, which is very bad. Now, when it comes to the third one, it's lung cancer. Lung cancer begins in the lungs, and it can spread throughout the body if left untreated. And then there's 2 types. The one is a small cell carcinoma, and the other one is a non-small cell carcinoma, which is not so virulent, which is not so aggressive. This small cell cancer is the one which is more aggressive. It spreads very fast. And then the symptoms usually associated with this is a persistent chronic cough that if you have got this thing, you must go for checkup. And then the bone pain. The doctor was just talking about myeloid leukemia, which also can present with bone pains. Unexplained weight loss or chest pain, shortness of breath or coughing blood, fluid in the chest that you can never see, but you'll be running short of breath. Now, coughing out blood shouldn't be confused with that of tuberculosis, because all TB patients, they complicate, they get blood in the sputum. Now, the risk factors for lung cancer, it's usually family history, smoking and exposure to secondary smoke. exposure to radiation therapy or treatment.
Yeah.
So it's not all. No, let me say, it's very important that if you find these symptoms, go to get treatment.
Okay.
Now the fourth one is depression and suicide. Yeah. Now this is according to the South African Depression and Anxiety. About 17 million South Africans suffering from depression and anxiety, many of whom are men, and they don't realize that because they are afraid of stigma and they don't want to come out to come and see. Now, I would advise anybody, like if you get something like persistent feelings of hopelessness or sadness, or feeling fatigued all the time, sleep disturbances, receiving little pleasure from activities previously that you enjoyed, or maybe you tend to be going to substance abuse. You see somebody smoking dagga or something, and you just say, let me try. Physical ailments like headaches, digestive complications, or body pains and aches and pains, generalized body pains for no reason. Just make sure that you see your doctor, and then they may do some tests and then get out of the woods. The fifth one is diabetes, we just spoke about. Diabetes is also very, very dangerous as compared to hypertension because it's got its own complications, like you can get a stroke from that, you can get blindness, you can get a heart attack, you can get what you call chronic kidney disease, and then in men you can get impotence or erectile dysfunction. And if you're not careful, you can end up with an amputation of one or two legs. But all these things can be picked up on your general yearly checkup that your doctor will always be going through your body from top to toe.
Yeah.
And then the last one is erectile dysfunction, which is a condition basically where a man is unable to keep an erection long enough to engage in sexual intercourse or experience a decreased sexual desire or something like that.
Yeah.
But all these things can be picked up if you go for your general checkups.
Got you. Dr. Abel, I want to cut to Rich because we're going to run out of time. We just got a few short minutes. And Rich is in Durban and they had a question for you, but maybe I'll also play it tandem with some voice notes. Let's go to WhatsApp first whilst we get Rich on the line.
Okay. Good afternoon, Bridget. My name is Elfas Noboye in KZN. Good afternoon to the good doctor there. I've got a question here. How does one screen for the cancer that affects the alimentary canal, specifically the esophageal cancer and as well as the colon cancer, because there's a family history in my family. Anyway, enjoy afternoon.
And let's go straight to Rich so that Doc can give us the brief answers back to back. Rich in Durban?
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. I want to ask, I do PSA annually. Okay, not annually, once in 2 years. Is it good enough? Or should I do something else? I hear there's another one that does funny things, so I don't know how to do that. Is PSA enough?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Good doctor?
Okay, fine. To diagnose gastrointestinal diseases like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease or hemorrhoids maybe or polyps in the colon, we have to do a colonoscopy. That is a long pipe that you put via the back, and then you can always see all those pathology there. And then as far as checking for the stomach and the esophagus and the lower esophagus, to check if there are any cancers or any varices, you can do a gastroscopy. That's a pipe that is put through the mouth. And then they can always check that, take pictures, take biopsies, and they can come up with an answer as to what the problem is. Now, PSA is very important because as you do it yearly, we look at the trend as to how is it going up or is it going down? Because for you to do a PSA, you must have had some other problems with urination, and then or something like that. Then consulted with a doctor, and then if he does that, I think the gentleman doesn't like a digital rectal examination. We only had to put a finger at the back to feel the prostate, to feel the size. So what they usually do is just to do that, and then do a PSA to support what we have found on your physical examination, and then thereafter you will have to do an ultrasound. That ultrasound is going to show the hot and cold areas as to whether is there an imminent cancer of the prostate or not. And then that is followed up by ultrasound directed biopsy, putting a needle into the prostate to get a sample and take it to the laboratory. And then if it comes back positive for cancer, then you refer to an oncologist, then they'll take over. But if he's afraid to do all these tests, you can do an MRI, but MRI is very expensive. Very expensive, about 15 to 20,000 rands. So rather let them put a finger and do a PSA, then that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's only, a couple of moments of discomfort for your betterment. And also versus paying for that MRI, which maybe, I don't know how medical aids work with such tests, because there's a lot of co-payments in some of these medical aids.
Yeah, there's a lot of co-payments. I mean, you have to apply for authorization. They may not, and then depending on your medical aid, whether it's a low plan or a high plan. Some are low plans, they won't cover MRI.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a question here. Someone says that they'd like to ask, around their skin, which is sensitive every time they get a scar. Is it because of a keloid, or is it advisable to remove them? It seems like they're on their face. But the doctor said if they remove them, they might come back again and much bigger.
No, I think the best thing must see a dermatologist to see if he's got a keloid, or he's got a mole, or he's got just a pseudocyst or something like that. But don't try to remove it yourself. Let the doctor remove it if he thinks maybe it needs to be removed. So, and then if it becomes itchy, I think it's more a mole. Okay. And then if it changes color, then it means maybe that is a precursor of cancer of the skin. I think you must see a dermatologist quick.
Just so I know, Dr. Abel, before I Google, what exactly is a keloid?
A keloid is an overzealous healing of the body after it has been injured. Like if you've got a scar, as it heals, these cells, the healing cells, which are called fibroblasts, they are overzealous. They just heal, they just multiply, and then they end up having to form a razor roll scar, which is dark in complexion, and then it can become painful sometimes, or it can be itchy. So basically, it's not a disease as such, but it's just cosmetically not acceptable.
Okay, I get you. And I mean, we've covered the 6 top diseases, and prostate cancer always seems to get the questions when we have this. But maybe in our last minute, let's have a look at cardiovascular disease and some of the telltale signs there that folks should cause for alarm to go seek further clarity from a doctor.
Look, if you've got lightheadedness, you've got headaches, you've got dizziness, which you don't know how to explain, I think you must just go and see the doctor, because that could signify that maybe somehow your blood circulation is not optimal, or your heart is not beating well. Maybe you're getting cardiovascular ischemia, meaning the blood is not getting enough blood supply from the atherosclerosis that is caused by fatty food or something like that. So all those things, if you've got heart, palpitations, awareness of your heart beating, those are the signs that you should go and see the doctor.
Okay. Dr. Abel Tlhalana, thank you so much for the time. Much appreciated. And Dr. Abel is a general practitioner in private practice. If you want to have a private consultation, you can just Google the name and make that necessary appointment. All right, we just dipped into November there just to urge you to go out and use this month. Be deliberate about using this month to go in for your annual general checkup. It serves you nothing for you to bury your head in the sand and pretend like you don't want to know. You do want to know what's going on. The headline news is coming up.
With headlines at 2:30, I'm Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. The Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson, says his department has created what he calls an infrastructure pipeline to the value of more than 60 billion rand. In other news, the 12th World Urban Economic Forum is underway, marking its second return to Africa. Delegates have convened in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, for the first day. And some polling stations are beginning to open on the east coast of the U.S. in what's being described as the most consequential presidential election in a generation. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The South African government has implemented economic reforms to address challenges in energy, logistics, and the visa regime. State-owned entities like Eskom and Transnet are driving economic growth and job creation. Working with business, government has managed to transform energy supply, enabling private investment in electricity generation. We have had more than 200 days with no load shedding, enabling our economy to grow. Transnet has reduced port congestion, allowing South Africa to benefit from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, building and transforming the economy. A message brought to you by Government Communications. Rise and shine. Plan to keep rising and shining with victory to secure a decent top-half spot. But the Rockets are not impressed with their slow start of the season. They believe this is the time to collect 3 points. Limpopo battles it out with Mpumalanga. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Polokwane City FC versus TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 9 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. This program is brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi, my name is Bridget Masinga from Italy. I'm 5C and I'm 11 years old. How often do I use headphones or earphones? I don't use headphones or earphones much, and it's important to keep the volume at a safe level when using headphones, because when you use headphones in a high level, the volume and the sound might actually damage your ears. Any sounds that your ears might feel uncomfortable, you must immediately leave the headphones because it might actually make you deaf. The amount of time that you must keep the earphones on must be around 5 to 10 minutes, because that's my personal thinking, because if you keep the earphones on for a long time, your ears might start being painful.
Good day everyone, my name is Yolanda Mzaba. I am 11 years old. I often use earphones. I don't usually use them a lot because they might cause ear damage. I think it is important to keep the volume at a safe level because it might cause ear damage, but to be honest, I don't put the volume low because I just like music, so I put it higher. Yes, I have noticed any sign that my ears will feel uncomfortable after using earphones. It will feel like there's something inside vibrating, and I will tell my father because my father and my parents are the heroes of my life. It feels like there's something working inside my ear, and I did not feel uncomfortable and I could not sleep. I think people should use earphones for, I'm not sure about it, for maybe, but not more than 30 minutes, might depends on what you're listening to. Usually my parents tell me to use earphones every single day. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, my name is Deborah Mary. Yes, I do take special care of my ears. A few things I do to keep my ears functioning is by cleaning them and not listening to loud music. Yes, there is someone who encourages me to take care of my ears. It is my mom, Mercy. What I think will happen if we don't take special care of our ears is we won't be able to hear anything, or our ears will hurt. What I I think we should do to keep our ears healthy is by cleaning them and not putting random stuff in our ears. So always take care of them. Do not put stuff that will damage your ears.
My name is Kate, and yes, I do have headphones of my own, and I use them very often. And yes, I use them on a daily. And the reason I use them most of the time is to listen to music, to watch TikTok, to be on calls, etc. And I love my headphones. My headphones don't really affect my hearing. Like, they don't make it a problem because I don't put volume on max most of the time. Usually I can press noise cancellation and then like I don't have to put volume up, and then I can just hear it nicely, so the volume is not high, but I can't really hear the noise around me, so it sounds louder, but it's not louder at all. I do think that headphones could be harmful if you put them on like max volume, and they could be harmful to a child or just like anyone in general, because having max volume could like somehow like affect your hearing. You might need to get hearing aids or like just stop hearing altogether. Thank you for listening.
My name is Lorraine Moya. Yes, I do take care of my ears. To keep my ears functioning properly, I do the following things. I wash them every day when I take a shower. I don't listen to loud music using earpods. Even listening on the radio or TV, I keep the volume moderate. I don't clean my ears with cotton buds, and I have regular hearing tests at least once a year. My mom encourages me to take care of my ears. Whenever I hear a nice song and want to increase the volume of my earpods, my mom usually tells me that my volume is too high. If I don't take care of my ears, I might lose my hearing. In order to keep our ears healthy, we must avoid loud noise, especially loud music, through the earphones. We must not put water or other liquids in our ears. Let's take care of our ears because it is important to do so.
I use headphones. I use them every time, but not always every day, because using headphones every day can damage ears. I use headphones for listening to music, online classes, and for games. I am very aware that extreme use of headphones on loud volume is harmful, so I don't use loud volume. The loud volume can be very harmful and it hurts the eardrum.
Hello friends and happy Tuesday. Today we dive into a topic we all love. Using earphones or headphones to enjoy music, play games or watch videos. They make our listening experience so enjoyable, allowing us to immerse ourselves in our favorite sounds without disturbing anyone around us. However, it's important to be aware that excessive use of earphones and headphones can negatively impact our ears and hearing. First off, prolonged use of earphones or headphones, especially at high volumes, can harm the tiny hair cells in our ears that are essential for hearing. Unfortunately, these cells don't regenerate if they get damaged, which could lead to hearing loss. Just think about how difficult it would be not to hear your friends or family. That wouldn't be enjoyable at all. Additionally, listening to loud sounds for extended periods can make our ears feel fatigued or even cause a ringing sensation known as tinnitus, which can be quite bothersome and hard to eliminate. Another concern with earphones is that they drown out important sounds around us, like traffic or someone calling your name. This can pose a risk, especially when you are near busy roads or need to stay alert while walking or biking. Being aware of your surroundings is important for your safety. So how do we enjoy our earphones and headphones more safely? First, keep your volume at a reasonable level. If someone next to you can hear your music, it's likely too loud. Many devices come with a safe listening feature that can help you avoid excessive volume. Also remember to give your ears regular breaks. For instance, take off your earphones every hour to let your ears rest. Lastly, consider using over-ear headphones instead of in-ear ones when possible. Over-ear headphones are generally safer for your ears since they don't sit inside the ear canal. Your ears are valuable, and we want to keep them healthy for a long time for enjoyment. So let's be mindful.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Did you know the National Department of Transport has allocated 7.7 billion rand in bus subsidies for the 2024-25 financial year, which is a 4.5 increase from the last year. Through the taxi recapitalization program, over 83,700 old taxis have been scrapped, with 5.9 billion rand paid to operators. Since 2001, the Shova Galula bicycle program has distributed 122,000 bicycles to learners, with 32,000 delivered during the current period.
Doing more together. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
India planned to cause an upset in Mzansi's own backyard. However, the Proteas are all about hitting the ground running at St. George's Oval to demonstrate what the Protea fire looks like. What a summer without cricket! Catch the spectacular second T20 international match between South Africa and India on Sunday 10 November at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
So did you know that the October Transport Month campaign commenced on the 1st of October 2024, and this year marks an important milestone in the calendar of the National Department and Provincial Departments of Transport as they celebrate 19 years of the annual October Transport Month OTM campaign. The OTM highlights the extent to which the department, provincial departments of transport, and entities of transport are responding to the priorities of the 7th administration, which include developing infrastructure to grow an inclusive and sustainable economy, create jobs, and improve standards of living while improving overall service delivery efficacies. Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The Film Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
As we wrap up the show, we're going to have a conversation now with Eugene Lee Davids, who's an associate professor at the University of Pretoria, and we're looking at a study that was done that shows that rushing or delaying decisions is linked to anxiety and depression in young people. So each day we make decisions, thousands, hundreds of decisions, starting with something as small as what to have for breakfast and what to wear. And we make so many decisions that one doesn't even keep count, right? But the good professor here and his colleagues say that it's also important to understand the way that we make decisions and the approach that we take and how that can influence our mental health. Good afternoon to you, Eugene. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm well, thanks, and you?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, I think we can all admit that a lot of us probably don't think all too much or all too hard about some of the more rudimentary decisions that we make every single day. It's just you kind of do it second nature.
Very true. There's no training for decision making, but we make so many of them on a daily basis. And as you said, everything from what to wear to breakfast.
Now, you said that it's important for us to understand the way in which we make choices, which, I don't know, I'm thinking then suggests that there could be some kind of method that we are unconscious of.
Very true. So we call those styles of decision making, Bridget. They one particular approach. There are 4 types of ways of making decisions, or styles rather. The first one is vigilant decision making, and this is the so-called good decision making, where we look at all the possible alternatives, weigh up the pros and cons, and then decide which alternative we will go with. Then we either rush making a decision because of the concern of time, which I'm sure many of us are aware of this, when time is pressing, that we often rush in making decisions, whether in the workplace or at school, or putting off making a decision until a later stage. And what we actually found was that rushing the decision-making process, or putting off making a decision until a later stage, led to increased levels of anxiety and depression symptoms among young people in our study.
Very interesting. And I think before we even unpack a bit more about those rushed decisions, let's understand, why you undertook this study to begin with, and what was the objective for yourself and your colleagues who were involved in this?
Lots of my work is focused on decision making, and it's because we know so little about it. And it's something that we engage with on a daily basis. And that was the big driver that started all the way back when I started my doctoral studies. And I've been studying how young people make health-related decisions over the last 8 years. And this particular study looked at how making decisions were linked to levels of anxiety and depression. And that was the big driver, trying to understand the health and well-being of young people within our country, which we know so little about, and uncovering more each and every day.
Yeah, and I'm noting that because we're doubling back to that, how young people make health-related decisions. But I also want to just, so you said that there are 4 types of decision-making: vigilant, rush, delay,
or shifting responsibility, or we call it back passing, where we let someone else make the decision.
Back pass, or what we could call procrastination, maybe? No?
I think the delay could be more procrastination. This is just where we don't want to take responsibility, and we think, okay, let someone else make the decision for us.
Okay, and of course, a lot of this study focused on the rushed and the delay decision, and its link to mental health as it pertains to young people.
Yes. So what we actually found was, as academics, we sometimes use jargon, and we speak of statistical significance, and the buck-passing decision-making style. So that's where we rather leave someone else to make the decision for us. So it's not significant at all in the study. And there's a number of reasons why we could unpack this. It could be that, because of a number of reasons around perfectionism, so we could be afraid to make decisions, and that could be a reason why it wasn't significant. But the vigilant decision-making style, as well as the rushed and delaying decision-making style, was significant. And we found that the rushed decision-making and delaying decision-making was linked to high levels of anxiety and depression symptoms in people.
And what does that tell us? What does that tell us about the rushed decision style, and why it induces these sort of negative mental health symptoms or mental health diagnoses?
Very often we don't think about how we engage with decision-making and how decision-making actually shapes our mental health. If we think about the situation in which we need to make a decision, and whether this is anything from what to study or what am I going to do with my end-of-year savings, as we're approaching that particular time of year, time plays a big role. If we don't have enough time, we're either going to rush the process, or we're going to put off making the process until just before we have to actually engage with that pressing decision-making situation. And so what we see from this is that time plays a big role in elevating those levels of depression and anxiety symptoms. And so very often we might not have thought of how we make decisions being linked to mental health, but they are in fact linked to mental health and well-being as well.
Now, you mentioned that over the last 8 years or so now, you've sort of been focused on how young people make health-related decisions. And why specifically looking at their health-related decisions?
We have so much information. When we are in school, there's lots of health programs that bombards young people with information, but we're not sure what young people do with this information. We're not sure how they process it. And that's why I was very keen in understanding health-related decision-making. If I could speak about this as well, Bridget, another study of mine looked at condom use decision-making styles of young people. And very often when we think of decision-making, we either think of it being a national approach, where we follow all the possible alternatives and weigh up the pros and cons, and we often forget about the emotional component, how our emotions affect how we make decisions. And in that particular study, which was a study that took place 2 or 3 years ago, there we found that rational decision-making and emotional decision-making were happening simultaneously. So both of those factors were shaping and playing a role in how young people were deciding whether to use a condom or not. As another example of health-related decision-making as well, Bridget.
Well, I mean, that's a happy surprise. That is a happy surprise, because I think, oftentimes when we talk to or about young people, we just assume that they're led with emotion and there's no rationale that informs any of the decisions that they undertake for themselves.
Very true. And we actually termed this the synergistic role of decision-making, because we often think of either the one or the other, and not that the two are happening simultaneously for young people as well.
All right. Now, talk to me about, because for this research study, you spoke to well over 1,400 plus young South Africans from across the country. Were there different patterns, perhaps, or sort of different approaches or nuanced approaches that you saw, region on region, cohort on cohort, race and gender, or maybe it was all kind of uniformed amongst this demographic?
Bridget, a very important question, and a question that is actually making me reflect on the data, because I have not even thought of looking at geographic location differences as well. And so this is something that's probably for me to go back and look at the data and see whether there are differences. I have not looked at that in this particular study, but I think that is very important, because each province is so uniquely different. Even though we say we form part of one country, but as a nation we are so diverse as well. And so that is something to look into. I did not, unfortunately, look at that within this particular study.
Yeah, because, and as we're talking, I mean, I'm just myself throwing the curveballs at you, because I'm just kind of thinking that a young person, say a 17-year-old in the Eastern Cape who's facing different environmental factors and resources, I don't know if they will, but might make different health decisions versus a young person that is centered in Cape Town, for instance, just because of their environment and what is or is not available for them to tap into.
Very true, and each of the environments are so different. And I mean, if we could look at something just like whether it's urban or rural differences, we could even look at things such as educational opportunities that are very different in different provinces, or even for different persons within different provinces. And so there's a wealth of knowledge, and you can see why when I started I said we know very little about decision making, and your question posed to me is just one good example of delving deeper and unpacking even more and trying to find out more about how we make decisions, or more specifically health-related decision-making of young people in this instance.
Now, if we hone into some of your findings in the study, right, so you said that you found vigilant decision-makers typically had lower anxiety and depression symptoms, whereas maybe the rushed decision makers had more anxiety and depression symptoms. What sort of other, or were there other risks, whether it's by diagnosis of depressive orders or other things that you noted between the two groups?
Yeah, so what we did look at, we were looking at the risk of a potential clinical diagnosis.
Okay.
So this is looking at the number of the anxiety and depressive symptoms which would likely lead to a clinical diagnosis. And very shockingly, we found that 37.3% of the young people were at risk for diagnosis of major depressive disorder, and 74.2% of that at risk for an anxiety disorder. So this is not to say that they had an anxiety or depressive disorder, but saying that the symptoms or the number of symptoms that we are seeing were likely to lead to a clinical diagnosis as well. And this is very alarming. We've seen trends across the country with young people. There's been a number of studies done within South Africa where we've actually seen that after the COVID-19 pandemic, these levels of anxiety and depressive symptoms have increased significantly. And so it's also a call for us to say, how are we dealing with this mental health concern? And one of the biggest challenges that I often think is the amount of services that we have available for young people. We think of psychologists, for example, but also if we think about child and adolescent mental health psychiatrists, we currently in South Africa in the public health system, we have about 15 to 16 of them. And if we think that we have 10 million adolescents, not including the emerging adults, but if we had to include the emerging adults, that would be something like one psychiatrist to every 1 million young person in the country, which is very shocking and just highlights the need for mental health services for young people within our country as well.
Sure.
So that's just to highlight. I know it's, I want to say, very close to drive time, but with such staggering figures as well, Bridget, just highlighting the concern as well.
Yeah, and as we wrap it up, Eugene, as you bring up emerging adults, I know there's a term that's been flying around the various sort of news broadcasters now to sort of describe these adults in transition in South Africa, who technically are supposed to be assuming adulthood with all the responsibility of employment and bills and bonds and credit, but because of where we are economically and the unemployment rate in South Africa, they're kind of stuck between being children, dependent on their parents, living in their homes, unemployed, but they are technically in their 20s where they should be starting a life. And I wonder if the study also showed any kind of anxiety or mental health that's born because of this gap or this suspension of transition from childhood into full-fledged adulthood.
So just to make some note, Bridget, that the study did not look specifically at the transition. It looked at this phase of transition, rather, emerging adulthood. Okay. But what we are seeing are trends across the globe, where some of the leading experts in even adolescent health are saying, should we extend the age of adolescence because young people are taking up these so-called adult-like responsibilities much later? And this could be for a number of reasons, as you've mentioned, socioeconomic factors, so unemployment being very low, or rather employment being very low, so young people enter the job market later, or considering pursuing higher education, so staying within the family home for even longer than previously. And so we are seeing there's a trend and change in young people taking up these roles within society, and heightening the levels of stress and uncertainty.
Yeah. Eugene, thank you so much for the conversation. Much appreciated. That was Eugene Lee Davids, Associate Professor at the University of Pretoria. So as we wrap up on our health and wellness show today, we actually spoke to Dr. Lucille Singh earlier, who is the clinical hematologist who touched on the equitable access to diagnosis, treatment and support for all affected by CML. And we also continued to speak on building bridges, leaving no CML patient behind, emphasizing awareness and equitable access to diagnosis, treatment, and support. And this feature was brought to you by Novartis, Reimagining Medicine, and you can visit www.novartis.com for patient support, or you can listen to the podcast on SAFM. That's it from myself today. Have a great afternoon. Inshallah, God willing, we'll do it again.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Always detached, recharged and flourishing you on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3. As Coach Alicia Drummond offers practical steps to a less is more lifestyle. HR specialist Uthad Omabelane shares key skills to revitalize your career. Plus, overnight oats is the perfect after-gym recharger. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Top stories. Public Works prioritizes construction for job creation and polls open for the 2024 U.S. election day. A very good afternoon. With the news, I am Dino Madaung. Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson says the main vision of the 7th administration is to turn the country into a construction site. Government is set to work on 3 focus areas as part of creating permanent employment through the revitalization of the construction industry. McPherson was speaking at the inaugural meeting with the Public Works and Infrastructure MECs from all 9 provinces.
At the departmental strategic planning session last month, I emphasized that we will achieve our goal of becoming a delivery unit for the economy by focusing on 3 areas in the years ahead. Firstly, by turning South Africa into a construction site. Secondly, by using public assets for public good. And thirdly, by reforming the EPWP program to serve as a bridge to permanent employment.
The 12th World Urban Economic Forum is underway, marking its second return to Africa. Delegates have convened in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, for the first day of sessions and workshops. They're exchanging ideas on various urban development issues. South Africa's Human Settlements Minister, Mameluku Kubai, will facilitate a dialogue between India, Brazil and South Africa on the transformation of slums. Kubai says it's important to learn from other countries' best practices on how to deal with slums.
What we want to utilize that is a platform where we could be able to learn from other countries how they are doing it, what has been, obviously we'll take the consideration of our own domestic laws, different to theirs, and how they are able to eradicate those. Because the important thing as we deal with climate change is to move people from informal setting to formality.
In Gauteng, the Water and Sanitation Minister, Phemi Majodina, has reiterated that the water crisis in the province is self-inflicted. She says municipalities were warned as early as June to take care of the water infrastructure in the province. This as most parts of the province have been battling with water cuts in recent weeks. Majodina was briefing the media on the department's performance during its first 100 days.
It is important to state that there is no drought in Gauteng. However, the province is experiencing